So hi, today I have with me Marla. I want to say Carla for some reason, but Marla from University of Manitoba. So thank you for joining us today, Marla.
Hi, thanks for inviting me.
And as we previously discussed, I have a few questions to ask you with regards to the University of Manitoba. And if I was an Indigenous student at a high school, I'm living on a reserve. These are some questions that I may have. And so question number one, a recent 2019 Manitoba First Nations report indicated about half of all participating high school First Nation students in Manitoba wanted to attend a post-secondary institution. That's a mouthful. But in reality, there is only about 10% of these students actually attending. What is the University of Manitoba, or what do you know about the University of Manitoba and helping to bridge this gap that we're seeing?
So I think that at the U of M, I think we all are very aware that post-secondary success of Indigenous people is vital to the success of Manitoba, for our communities and our families, but also for us personally. I think that being able to go to a job that you love, doing work that you enjoy, things that are interesting for you is the best payoff for post-secondary. So when pursuing post-secondary, though, there's a lot to consider and plan for. So that can be like a really big hurdle for a lot of students to overcome. And this is kind of where the Indigenous student recruitment teams comes in. And I'm a member of the student recruitment team. We are a 3-person team, and we really support Indigenous applicants coming to the University of Manitoba. And we do that in a bunch of different ways. So we provide information for students that are just exploring post-secondary and what does that mean at the University of Manitoba. So we really focus in on that time period from when students start exploring post-secondary and until they start their first classes at the U of M. So we connect students to program information, to the application process. We look at the admission requirements. We advise on any upgrading that might be needed. And then we also connect students to the programs and services that are available on campus. And I think when you talk about students who are relocating, especially into Winnipeg, it's talking about shifting student supports and being connected to community. And those are really important things when we talk about being successful at university. So we do work with students through the application process as well. So we can troubleshoot if students are having any questions, and then we can also follow up on their application, check their application statuses, ensure that their documents have been received. And then if there's any questions about communications that are coming from the admissions office, we can kind of clarify what any kind of letters coming into students mean. And then we also support students through a process called Next Steps for New Students. And that can include things like claiming your UMNet ID, and then connecting with folks like student advisors to help pick your classes.
And I know firsthand from attending University of Manitoba myself a couple of times that it's a big post-secondary institution with a lot of different faculties. And so I really like to hear that there's a step-by-step process that you guys go through to make sure that students don't feel lost in the process of even just trying to get into admissions for their, the faculty that they want, and then seeing them through some different steps as well while they're there as a student. Like getting your UMID, and these things are important. And we're even go for your picture for your student card, if they still do that.
Oh, for sure, that definitely happens. And I think the other thing too is that, the U of M is a very big place. There's like over 100 different undergraduate degree options, and a lot of times the information is really specific program to program, and so it can be difficult to find that information that's specific to the student. And so the Indigenous student recruitment team really tries to work with students one-on-one, so that we sort of can personalize our answers and personalize our time with them.
Well, that's awesome. I like to hear that one-on-one. Definitely works well for a lot of students. I'm going to move on to question number 2, which you might have alluded to a little bit. What are some of the campus services available specifically for First Nation students?
So the picture behind me right now is the interior sort of welcoming center for the building known as Miigwech or Bald Eagle Lodge. And that is really an Indigenous community hub on campus when we're able to be there in person. And the Miigwech houses the Indigenous Student Center right on the main floor. And you can actually see the reception desk right behind me. And so related to sort of first year students, the Indigenous Student Center offers a program called Qualico Bridge to Success, and it's really focused in on supporting students as they transition into post-secondary life at the University of Manitoba. A big component of that is also connecting to other students. And so one of the ways in which they do that is by peer support through the Niche Walk-in Peer Mentorship Program. But there's a lot of different programs and services offered by the Indigenous Student Center, including one that I think is really important, especially for first year students, called Empowering You Financial Wellness Program. You know, for me, it was a big shift coming to university, managing my own budget. You're also dealing with post-secondary education that costs quite a bit of money. And so you're making really big financial decisions. And I think that that program is really important for students to sort of uptake the seminars and workshops that are available in order to get a good handle on their finances in their first year. They also offer things like student advisors. So you can meet with an Indigenous student advisor. Vanessa Lilly is really great, but there's others there as well. And you can meet with them and they can help pick your classes, set up your schedules, and really, you know, take into consideration things like what your academic goals are, but also what your career goals are. They can refer you to other campus services that are available, as well as community services too. And they have a lot of different cultural programs available on campus, and they organize events and different student services. So really, the Indigenous Student Center is a great place to start when you're thinking about what's available for all Indigenous students on campus. But the Indigenous Student Center is also open to everybody. If you're looking for really specific and holistic wraparound supports, you might want to consider program-specific support units. And so some students may have heard of programs called like the Access Program. So these are programs that offer things like really detailed August orientation. So you're really orientated to university before your first class starts. They may offer things like academic advising or personal counseling. They also offer a really great student support social network. And for some programs, they may offer smaller classroom sizes. And specifically for the Engineering Access Program, they also offer free high school upgrading. So program-specific support units include the Engineering Access Program, the Indigenous Business Education Partners, Pathways to Indigenous Nursing Education, and Health Careers Access Program. But no matter what program you're going after, you can also apply to be a member student of the General University of Manitoba Access Program. It's really important to note, though, that these is an additional application. So you apply to the University of Manitoba to undertake a university degree, and then you also apply to a support unit to access their specific supports for their member students only.
So would that include for an academic advisor, that'd be something that a student would have to apply for? Is that correct?
Well, you could access an academic advisor through your faculty, through the Indigenous Student Center, but for students who apply to, say, for example, the Access Program, they would also be able to access an academic advisor in the Access Program specifically. So you have multiple places where you can seek support.
So it sounds like you were a first student at one point at University of Manitoba, I'm guessing. Mm-hmm. And are you currently a first year student?
No, I graduated quite a long time ago, but I do remember my first year very, very well.
That's what I was just going to bring up. So what was campus life like as a first year student?
So for myself, I remember it being a time of flux and transition. There was so many things that I was tackling for the first time. You know, I was learning new ways of learning. I was learning about new classroom organizations. I was in classrooms that were a completely different size than what I was used to. And then again, I was learning a whole new system. You know, the process of even selecting and registering for your classes is completely different from the process that I was used to in high school. So, you know, for me, the biggest takeaway that I always relate to students is to be open to asking a lot of questions.
Yes.
No one is expecting you to be an expert at this right off the hop. And there's so many folks on campus like myself and like the folks at the Indigenous Student Center who are really ready here to answer any questions. And we've heard all types of questions, so there's no question that we haven't heard before. And we're just willing to really make sure that we get the answers that you're seeking.
And that's one of my philosophies, is that there is no such thing as a silly question. In fact, if you're thinking of asking a question, somebody else has probably thought of it too.
Exactly. And you know what, there's been so many Indigenous students who've come through the University of Manitoba. So we have a lot of experience that we're drawing from too.
True, that makes sense. Moving on to the next question. If I live on a reserve, what kind of bursaries or funding would I have available to help with my tuition and just cost of living in general?
Yeah, so relocating to Winnipeg can be a major shift in your cost of living. So some may live with family, while others opt for sharing costs with roommates, for example. Some may decide to live on their own. And some may decide that they want to try dorm life out. And it's really, you know, each scenario has different costs that are associated with that. There are a couple of different forms of financial aid that's available through the University of Manitoba. So we do have some internal scholarships and bursaries. And the main difference between those is that a scholarship is based on merit. So doing really well in high school, getting really great grades. And bursaries is based on financial need. And university is expensive. All post-secondary education is expensive. So most people are able to show that they do have some financial need when they're coming to university. There is one scholarship that I really like to highlight when I'm talking to high school students, specifically students in grade 10 and 11, is that we have one scholarship that's called the Indigenous Leader of Tomorrow. And these scholarships are valued at up to $16,000 over a 4-year period. And they're awarded to high school students who have graduated and obtained a 90% average over specific grade 11 courses. And so this is our only scholarship that's based on grade 11 marks. All of our other scholarships are based on your grade 12 marks.
All right, grade 11s, hope you're listening to that. That's a key factor. Highlight, important, make a note of that one.
Yeah, and make sure that you're taking the right classes in grade 11 too. And if you have any questions, you can connect with us and we can advise you on what classes to be taking.
Okay, so not only can you see, and we'll provide at the end of this video a link where you can connect with Marla or somebody else as well for the University of Manitoba.
For sure.
Now, if I wanted to attend the University of Manitoba, what kind of marks, and I being pretending to be a high school student living on a reserve, what kind of marks would I need to meet your admission requirements?
So one of the things about the U of M that's really great is that it's really big, so you have a lot of choice. One thing that's really tough about the U of M is that it's really big and you have a lot of choice. So we have 100 different programs, and admission requirements vary program by program. So it can be really hard to answer that question really broadly. However, there is one overarching requirement for high school graduates coming to the U of M. And that overarching requirement is that you complete 5 full grade 12 credits designated either 40S, 40G, or 40U. So it's really important to note here that physical education 40F, as in Fred, does not meet this requirement. So if you're taking gym, you also have to take another 540 SG or U courses in order to be admissible to the U of M. So that's the first check mark that you're sort of seeking. After that, the U of M starts looking at your average over specific classes, and that's where it gets more detailed, and you can contact us for more information.
Yeah, again, I know firsthand from being on campus, there's many different faculties, there's many variations of admission requirements and marks. And so again, if you're interested, please don't hesitate to, look in and dive deeper and further, and we'll provide more links for that at the end of this video.
I think the other important thing that I'll just sort of jump into right now is to say that, we receive phone calls and emails from students in grade 9 and 10 because we know that you're picking your grade 12 classes sometimes years before you actually get to grade 12. So definitely reach out to us. It's never too early to reach out to us. And we're just really happy whenever we get connected by students.
No, that's awesome. And it's never too early to start planning. Like you said, even in high school, one course builds on another to get that acceptance or admissions qualifications met. Are there any accommodations specifically for Indigenous students living on campus, especially if I'm used to like smudging or having access to an elder or things of these nature?
So Miigwesi Academic, the building behind me, is actually a completely smudge-friendly space. And so students often have access to this building throughout the day. The Indigenous Student Center also is available. Students, if they wanted to request a smudge, they just have to go to the reception desk and request a smudge. And you are welcome to use the medicines that are there. If you would like somebody to help light the smudge for you, somebody is usually there that can help with that as well. So Indigenous Student Center at Miigwesi Academic is definitely an accessible place for all students. There's also a circle room that's accessible just sort of down the hall and around the corner from where I'm sitting. We also offer a lot of different ceremonies there too. So once a month, there's a woman's full moon ceremony. We also have a men's group that meets currently right now every Thursday. So there's different cultural ceremonies that are available for students to participate in if they wish.
And I've been in that building a few times, and it is a very nice building as well. And I like to hear that it's inclusive. It includes anybody who wants to participate in these cultural sensitive practices.
I think too, like oftentimes we do hear from students who maybe for the first time might be taking part in a sharing circle or smudging for the first time when they come to university. And so there's lots of opportunity for learning. There's also several Indigenous elders and residents that work at the Indigenous Student Center. And you're also seeing that there's more elder engagement in faculties as well. So there might be opportunities in your degree program to connect with elders too.
Right. So even outside of this building, particularly.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And then the other thing too is that the Indigenous Student Center has a lot of campus partners. So they do offer services like they connect with student counseling services, and you can access student counseling at Miigwesi Academic. You can also access reading specialists, study workshops, and an Indigenous librarian.
Now, we can't ignore that we're still in the time of COVID, unfortunately, but I'm just thinking ahead. So after COVID, will the University of Manitoba still provide online learning from home? And I know they were pre-COVID, but even more so during COVID. And so moving post-COVID, will there be an equal amount or a good amount of learning or distance education? So if I want to remain in my community, which could be very northern or remote, would that be a possibility to complete a degree or a diploma through the University of Manitoba just by online studies?
So the University of Manitoba right now, everything is running virtually. That's our main sort of learning environment for all students. And we have yet to hear if the University of Manitoba is continuing in that route for our fall 2021 term. If students are interested in hearing an update, they can connect with us directly, or they can check on our website. Most of the time when students connected with me in the past to see how much would be available as through distance education, normally I would say I think it's a really good idea to connect with the department for which you're degree that you're seeking to ask them directly. We can look at the course schedule to see what's available in the next term or two available through distance education. But if you wanted to learn about the whole degree and what's available online, connecting with the department is the best way to go.
And that's a really hard question to answer because I'm asking you to have a crystal ball and project into the future. But yeah, that makes the most sense. Check with your faculty when in doubt, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at University of Manitoba, are there tutoring services available? And if so, are they included in my tuition?
So tutoring is not included in your tuition at the U of M. Some support units like the University of Manitoba Access Program, the Engineering Access Program, or Pathways to Indigenous Nursing Education, just to name a few, include tutoring as one of their academic supports that they offer to their member students only. So if that is something that you think you might need, applying to one of those programs to become a member student is a good idea. The Indigenous Student Center student advisors can also work with Indigenous students to access free tutoring in specific classes. So if that's something that you want to explore, definitely reach out to the Indigenous Student Center student advisors to see what might be available.
If I live on a reserve, how can I best explore my career or course options from the University of Manitoba? And I know there is a lot of them for options.
One of the best ways that you can find information on the University of Manitoba degree programs is by visiting our website. So our website's umanitoba.ca. And if you wanted to explore programs, you could specifically search out the admissions pages. In there, you'll also find a link for Indigenous students. And that is a really great launching page to explore the Indigenous community on campus, programs for success like the Access Program, different academic programs or degree programs, and then also campus supports and resources. So that's a really great page to check out. If you have very unstable internet or difficulty accessing anything online, you can also call us and let us know, what degree programs you're thinking of, what areas of interest, what's your favorite subject areas, and we can also mail out hard copy information to you as well.
Now, I've been on the University of Manitoba websites numerous times, and there's a lot of information, a lot of links. And so I'm glad that you were able to provide just 2 or 3 sources that students could dive into right away. And again, we'll provide more of that information after this video.
Okay.
Now, the next 2 questions are going to be a little bit more technical. So here we go. 28%. Are you ready for this one?
I'm ready.
28% of First Nation students surveyed in Manitoba in June 2019 by MFNERC said that they wanted a career in medical science and technology. So what learning do you have available in these areas at University of Manitoba?
So this is where the University of Manitoba, I think, is a definite leader in the province in the area of health sciences. So we do have the Rady Faculty of Health Sciences that has a number of different colleges within it. So we have the College of Dental Hygiene, Dentistry, Medicine, Nursing, Pharmacy, and Rehabilitation Sciences. And so rehabilitation sciences, we've really depended a lot on those respiratory therapists during the pandemic, and that's the college that those students graduated from. If you are interested in keeping people fit and healthy, you can also explore options with the Faculty of Kinesiology and Recreation Management. So this is where you can obtain education in athletic therapy, kinesiology, which is sort of the study of human movement, physical education, and recreation management. One option that sometimes students don't know about is through the Price Faculty of Engineering, through Biosystems Engineering. And so this is where engineering integrates life sciences. So sometimes that means developing new machinery that might support the health sciences, or finding different ways to deal with things like wastewater, or keeping people safe in their environment. And then we also have a very large faculty, the Faculty of Science, that has many different departments underneath it, including biochemistry, biological sciences, and microbiology. So if you're interested in sort of working on that side of medical science and technology, those would be kind of the best options to check out at the U of M.
Awesome. I'm going to encourage students to give Marla a call if you have more questions about that, because that's a lot of options again, and some of them are very detailed faculties. So it'd be worth calling Marla and even investigating and exploring what job or career you want to get into, and therefore what faculty would I need to start preparing myself for admissions for that. Okay, last but not least, Marla, we have one more question. In the MFNERC same study in June 2019, 47% of First Nation students surveyed said they wanted a trades job after graduating high school. What options in this area do you have available at the University of Manitoba?
So the University of Manitoba does not offer trades education. So if you are interested in trades, then you would have to explore another post-secondary institution in Manitoba.
And that's good to know, because it really helps to focus on where students need to spend their time and attention when they're looking for that career that they're wanting to meet and fulfill.
Mm-hmm. And trades is a great option too. You know, like I have lots of family members who work in the trades, so it's definitely great careers to pursue there.
Yep, I went into the education field in human ecology at the University of Manitoba, and my brother went into construction and is working as a concrete finisher, and he's making more money than I am. So it really depends what your interests are and your skill set, what you feel comfortable in wanting to do that matches your personality and style as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think the other thing too is that, you know, I've received questions and emails from students who were exploring options that weren't at the University of Manitoba, and we're connected to other Indigenous recruiters at other institutions. So I definitely forward students on to other contacts at other institutions. So, you know, if you're not sure if the U of M is going to be able to offer what you're seeking, connect with us anyways, and we can let you know.
Oh, that's very good to know. Thank you, Marla, for all your time and effort today. I really appreciate that. We had some technical glitches that you probably won't notice after we do some editing. And stay tuned for after this video, because there'll be some list of resources that you could connect with as well. And stay tuned for more videos yet to come.